Welcome to our series of Open Educational Resources videos. This is the third video, and in this video we'll talk about Creative Commons licenses, what you need to know. One crucial characteristic of OER is that these resources are open. In order to make the most out of these resources, you need to have a basic knowledge of open licensing. For now, let's look at some basic concepts. OER should be Creative Commons licensed or live in the public domain. This ensures broadest possible dissemination, it minimizes common copyright concerns, and it also provides teachers and learners with clear, permissive reuse terms compared to traditional copyright protection. What are the main differences between traditional copyright, Creative Commons, and the public domain? In traditional copyright, works cannot be used, adapted, copied, or published without the creator's permission. And this applies to all original works, since all works are protected under copyright when they're created. In Creative Commons, works may be used without permission, but only under certain circumstances. Creators set rules for the way their work is used. And we'll take a look at that. Creative Commons applies only to works that creators have chosen to designate as Creative Commons. It's important to note that when a creator chooses to release a work under a Creative Commons license, they are not waiving their copyrights. They maintain their copyright, but they give more freedoms for people to use that work. Works in the public domain can be used, adapted, copied, and published completely without restrictions. Under U.S. copyright law, this applies to works that were published prior to 1923, works by long-dead creators, and works that creators have placed in the public domain. So Creative Commons licenses offer simplicity in the face of the complexity of copyright. In practical terms, how do you decide to use a work? Let's say that you find something to use in your class and you ask yourself, may I use this? Well, you have to answer a few questions. Is this old enough to be in the public domain? If it is, then you can use it in your classroom without any concerns. If it's not, did the creator choose a Creative Commons license to allow sharing without permission? If yes, great, you can use it. If no, you have to weigh these options together to decide if you have a legitimate fair use claim. Under fair use, you have to weigh in the amount of substance of the work that you're using, the nature of the original work, the purpose and character of your use, and the effects on the market. After weighing these options, if it is fair use, then you might use it in your classroom. But if not, you need permission from the owner. So this is how Creative Commons licenses make things a lot easier for educators and for the public in general. The use of Creative Commons licenses is growing. There has been 1.2 billion Creative Commons licensed works that were released. Creative Commons licenses have 4 characteristics that can be combined into 6 different licenses. The first one is attribution. All Creative Commons licenses have this requirement so that others can copy, distribute, display, and perform and remix your work if they credit your name as requested by you. The second characteristic is no derivative works, so that if you choose to release your work under this term, others can only copy and distribute or display or perform verbatim copies of your work. The third is share alike, so that others can distribute your work only under a license identical to the one that you have chosen for your work. And the last one is non-commercial, so that others can copy, distribute, display, perform, or remix your work, but only for non-commercial purposes. By combining these terms, you can have 6 different licenses. It's important to notice that no derivative works are not OER. As I mentioned in the beginning, for a resource to be an OER, it has to allow remix, and no derivative works doesn't allow that. So if you find a work that has any of these 2 licenses, the CC, BY, and D, so that attribution non-derivative, or the attribution non-commercial non-derivative, then these are not OER. You might still use them, but you will not be able to adapt or to remix that work. To make things easier for you, in this chart here, you can see the different Creative Commons licenses in the public domain and see what you can do with them. These here on top of the permit are the permissions that you have. So for all of these licenses, you have the right to copy and publish. For all of them, except for the public domain, you have to give attribution to the author. And even though in the public domain, it's not required that you do that, it is good to actually do it. And you see which licenses you can use for commercial use, which ones you can modify and adapt, and which ones you can change the license and republish that remix resource under a different license.